Tiffany Henyard, once hailed as a rising political star in Dalton, Illinois, now finds herself engulfed in a scandal that's drawing national attention, and for all the wrong reasons. What started as a career fueled by ambition and hope has spiraled into a saga of alleged financial abuse, personal enrichment, and multiple federal investigations. Henyard, who once commanded fierce loyalty from both local officials and residents, is now under heavy scrutiny as explosive evidence surfaces, suggesting she's been using taxpayer money to bankroll a luxurious lifestyle, all while her community continues to struggle. Her rise to power was swift and dramatic. Henyard stepped into the role of mayor following the unexpected death of her predecessor, Frank Zuccarelli. From the beginning, her appointment raised eyebrows, but she wasted no time silencing critics, with bold promises of progress, prosperity, and a new era for Dalton. For a moment, it seemed like she delivered. Her vision included initiatives for veterans, seniors, and ambitious plans to jumpstart local economic growth. By 2021, Henyard had firmly cemented her position, winning the mayoral race in a landslide and adding the powerful title of Thornton Township Supervisor to her resume. With both roles under her belt, her income skyrocketed, reportedly reaching over $200,000 a year. Tiffany Henyard looked unstoppable. But behind the scenes, cracks had already begun to show. As her political clout grew, so did controversy. Her administration quickly became notorious for its lack of transparency, and whispers of financial mismanagement turned into loud public accusations. Critics began accusing Henyard of turning Dalton into her personal empire, where public funds meant for schools, infrastructure, and services were being funneled into her own pockets. Those accusations only intensified as more details about her spending habits emerged. Residents were outraged to learn that taxpayer money was allegedly being used to fund lavish vacations, high-end shopping sprees, and even a $500,000 driveway built for her mother's home. Dalton, a town already burdened by a $3.5 million deficit, watched in disbelief as its leader lived in luxury while basic municipal services fell apart. Online, the backlash was immediate. Social media lit up with frustrated residents calling out what they saw as clear abuse of public trust. But even with the outrage mounting, Henyard held firm, doubling down on her authority and tightening her grip on local power. Then, everything took a dramatic turn. In a scene straight out of a political thriller, the FBI raided Henyard's home, uncovering millions in hidden cash, a bombshell that suggested she had been siphoning public funds to enrich herself. For many in Dalton, this was the breaking point. Any remaining trust they had in their mayor evaporated overnight. But the investigation revealed even more. In just 5 months, Henyard reportedly spent $67,000 on travel alone. More than what many of her constituents make in an entire year. What started as a simple business trip to Springfield quickly transformed into a full-blown luxury getaway, with a full entourage, 5-star hotel stays, gourmet meals, and even motorbike joyrides, all funded by the people of Dalton. And perhaps the most shameless of all, Henyard allegedly used public money to promote her own image. Her face was splashed across billboards, not for official city business, not even for a re-election campaign, but simply as a self-glorifying move at a time when city streets were falling apart and community programs were starved for funds. But one of the most shocking twists in this unfolding scandal centers on the Henyard Care Foundation, a breast cancer nonprofit that Henyard once held up as a symbol of her compassion and leadership. What was supposed to be a noble initiative quickly came under fire after investigators began to suspect that the foundation wasn't helping the sick, but instead bankrolling Henyard's lifestyle. Allegations emerged that charitable donations were being redirected to cover luxury vacations, designer clothes, and even that infamous $500,000 driveway. As more details came to light, public anger boiled over. Not only were taxpayer funds being allegedly abused, but now a charitable foundation, created to support vulnerable members of the community, was being weaponized for personal gain. The extravagance didn't stop there. Reports also uncovered that city funds had been used to produce merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, and promotional materials, all emblazoned with Henyard's name and image. These items were then sold, with profits allegedly going straight into her pockets. And, when questioned about these purchases, Henyard offered little to no explanation, further fueling suspicions of misuse. Meanwhile, Dalton was collapsing. Roads went unrepaired, community programs dried up, the town's debt ballooned. Residents who once believed in Henyard's promises of transformation now felt completely betrayed, watching as their mayor flaunted wealth while their neighborhoods fell into neglect. At the center of this crisis is a devastating breach of trust, a growing belief that Henyard has exploited her position not to serve, but to benefit herself. Critics argue this isn't just a Dalton issue, but a cautionary tale of what happens when unchecked power is handed to someone willing to bend the rules for personal gain. And the FBI's investigation? It's far from over. As federal agents dig deeper into her spending, rumors are spreading that members of Henyard's inner circle may be turning on her, cooperating with authorities to protect themselves. If true, the political empire Henyard built may be on the verge of collapse from the inside out. But Henyard hasn't backed down. She continues to call the growing allegations a politically motivated smear campaign, insisting her critics are threatened by her leadership and vision. On social media, she's posted cryptic messages about unity and standing strong, but her efforts to rally support have largely fallen flat. As calls for her resignation grow louder, the community wants more than words. They want answers. Once promising political career is now unraveling in real time. And while Henyard still holds office, the weight of the evidence, the public distrust, and the financial disaster surrounding Dalton is becoming too much to ignore. Tiffany Henyard's time as mayor will likely be remembered not for the bold promises she made, but for the scandal that defined her tenure, a scandal that has left an entire town asking, how did it come to this? What began as a powerful story of political aspiration has now unraveled into a chilling tale of greed, betrayal, and unchecked authority. Her dramatic descent from grace stands as a stark warning about the perils of centralizing too much control in a single individual's hands, and why holding leaders accountable is not just necessary, but essential. The Henyard saga lays bare the fragile line between ambition and duty, showing how the misuse of public office can shatter trust and leave communities scarred. As the federal investigation deepens and fresh revelations continue to emerge, the residents of Dalton are left to grapple with an unsettling question. How deep does this corruption go? Despite her continued defiance, it's becoming harder to believe Tiffany Henyard can hold on to power much longer. Her credibility has taken a hit that may be impossible to recover from, and with the scandal growing by the day, Dalton's future hangs in the balance. In the end, Henyard's legacy may not be remembered for progress or reform, but rather as a painful chapter of missed opportunities, a town left to pick up the broken pieces. Her rise and fall now serve as a sobering lesson in why integrity, accountability, and transparency matter in public office, and what can happen when those values are cast aside. Once celebrated as a bold and energetic leader in Dalton, Illinois, Tiffany Henyard has now become the symbol of scandal, corruption, and financial collapse. Her time as mayor has been plagued by unchecked spending, silencing of critics, and a failure to responsibly govern the town's finances. What once seemed like a hopeful new chapter for Dalton quickly spiraled into chaos, marked by lawsuits, investigations, and a breakdown in public trust. One of the most glaring examples of Henyard's mismanagement is the extravagant cost of her personal security team, which has reportedly drained over $1 million from the town's funds. Operating around the clock, even during her private trips, the security detail resembled the kind you'd expect for a celebrity or high-ranking official, not the mayor of a small town. These excessive expenses only deepened Dalton's already dire financial crisis. In one jaw-dropping case, a security officer reportedly received $113,000 for just 303 hours of work over 2 weeks, raising serious questions about time inflation and potential fraud. While residents struggled with basic needs, their hard-earned tax dollars were being funneled into what many saw as Henyard's lavish and self-centered lifestyle. Her obsession with self-promotion reached new levels when taxpayer funds were allegedly used to plaster her image on billboards throughout Dalton. In a community already drowning in debt, this move wasn't just ethically questionable, it was tone-deaf. As the town's finances crumbled, Henyard carried on, seemingly untouched. by the chaos unfolding around her. Her leadership style soon gained a reputation for being fueled by ego and retaliation. Anyone who dared question her authority was reportedly met with swift punishment. From firing employees to pulling licenses from local businesses, Henyard allegedly used her power to silence dissent. One striking case involved Boeing Thrash, a longtime employee of Thornton Township. He claims he was terminated after refusing to go along with Henyard's plans, including turning down a $100,000 raise in exchange for replacing an attorney with someone handpicked by her assistant. His refusal was allegedly met with immediate dismissal, just one of many examples in a growing legal storm. Even those once close to Henyard weren't spared. Carmen Carlisle, a former trustee and once a loyal supporter, became one of the most vocal whistleblowers, calling out what she described as a toxic environment marked by fear and intimidation. Her allegations, including claims that Henyard used local law enforcement to intimidate critics, going as far as sending police to their homes, painted a disturbing picture of abuse of power. But perhaps the most harrowing accusation came from a former assistant, P. Dukes, who filed a lawsuit alleging sexual harassment during a taxpayer-funded trip. After speaking up, she was reportedly placed on unpaid medical leave, further exposing the alleged toxic culture at the heart of Henyard's administration. As the lawsuits continue to stack up, a dark cloud looms over her leadership. The stories of excessive spending, vengeance-driven governance, and repeated misuse of power have left Dalton in disarray. With $2 million in unpaid debt, services like street paving and tree trimming halted, and no official audit since 2021, the town's financial state has become almost impossible to track. Additional reports tie Henyard to a $3 million scandal involving blank checks, a 21% surge in police costs, and a jaw-dropping $65 million shortfall in the general fund. And still, Henyard tries to shift the blame, pointing fingers at former staffers and political opponents. Henyard's once trusted right-hand man, Keith Freeman, now finds himself at the center of legal trouble, charged with bankruptcy fraud and rumored to be cooperating with federal investigators. But despite these developments, the pile of evidence against Henyard keeps growing, making it harder by the day for her to maintain even a shred of credibility. Her once promising political legacy, once seen as a force for progress and revitalization, is now unraveling into a story of unchecked ambition, mismanagement, and personal corruption. What was hailed as bold leadership has been exposed for what it truly is: a cautionary tale of power gone unchecked. Even with public outrage mounting and allegations stacking up, Henyard continues to brush off criticism, blaming it all on the pressures of public service. But her conduct tells a much darker story, one where personal ambition and ego have taken precedence over the community's well-being. As federal authorities dig deeper into her spending habits and governing practices, the big question remains: can she salvage even a piece of her crumbling reputation? Her refusal to acknowledge growing calls for her resignation has only widened the rift between her and the very people she was elected to serve. Dalton now finds itself in a state of financial chaos. Residents, once hopeful for positive change, are now demanding accountability and searching for a way forward in the aftermath of Henyard's turbulent time in office. Her tenure has become a textbook example of what happens when power is left unchecked, leading not only to corruption and financial disaster, but also to the erosion of public trust. What was once a promising vision for Dalton has disintegrated into a series of scandals, filled with ethical violations, retaliation, and blatant disregard for both the residents' needs and the integrity of public office. The damage done by Henyard's administration runs deep, leaving behind a community trying to pick up the pieces. Her legacy now appears destined to be remembered not for progress, but for broken promises, instability, and betrayal. And while investigations continue to uncover more of the truth, one fact is undeniable: the financial and reputational damage to Dalton will linger long after Tiffany Henyard fades from the political spotlight. Once viewed as an ambitious leader, with bold plans for Dalton, Tiffany Henyard's time in office has spiraled into controversy, chaos, and allegations of deep-rooted corruption. Her administration, once seen as a beacon of hope, has now become a cautionary tale, marked by aggressive retaliation, unchecked spending, and a complete breakdown in fiscal responsibility. From luxury trips funded by taxpayers to an extravagant security detail, Henyard's spending habits have raised eyebrows across the town. Her ballooning police expenses have only heightened concerns, especially as residents struggle to meet everyday needs. These financial decisions have become symbols of how disconnected her leadership has become from the very people she was meant to serve. Critics say Henyard treats Dalton not as a community, but as a battlefield for control. Workers were allegedly coerced into spying on political adversaries and digging up dirt on anyone who dared question her. This culture of fear and intimidation has only further eroded trust in her leadership. Despite the growing storm, Henyard has repeatedly deflected blame, labeling the backlash as politically motivated. She remains unyielding, claiming her gender makes her a target, an argument many see as insincere and self-serving. But with each passing day, the financial crisis worsens. The town is drowning in debt, and oversight is virtually non-existent. Residents are growing disillusioned, and Henyard's disconnect from reality has only widened the divide between her and her constituents. The situation has taken an even darker turn with the FBI launching a full-scale investigation into Henyard's conduct. A search of her home reportedly uncovered large sums of hidden cash, casting serious doubts over her financial dealings. Authorities are now examining her financial records, business filings, and the operations of a controversial charity, with potential charges ranging from embezzlement to wire fraud looming overhead. As the legal pressure intensifies, so does the public demand for her resignation. The freezing of state funds has further paralyzed Dalton, already crippled by a massive deficit. Basic services like street paving and tree maintenance have gone unpaid, and the town's failure to complete an annual audit since 2021 has left its financial health in total disarray. Despite all of this, Henyard has continued to downplay the severity of the situation, insisting it's all part of a political setup. But with evidence mounting, her position grows more tenuous by the day. Dalton stands at a crossroads. The financial disaster left in Henyard's wake has thrown the town into crisis mode. Many now believe this all could have been prevented if only accountability had come sooner. Had accountability come sooner in Tiffany Henyard's tenure, the town of Dalton might have been spared the downward spiral it's now trapped in. But her persistent refusal to address growing concerns only accelerated the collapse. Her time in office has been defined not only by financial chaos, but also by a pattern of retaliation against anyone who dared to challenge her authority. Workers, political rivals, and even local business owners who didn't comply with her directives allegedly faced swift and severe consequences. One of the clearest examples is the case of Boeing Thrash, a former employee at Thornton Township. Thrash claims he was terminated after refusing Henyard's request to replace a township attorney with someone of her choosing. His story is just one among many legal battles brewing, lawsuits that accuse Henyard of wrongful termination, harassment, and abuse of power. Even more disturbing are allegations that Henyard used the police force as a tool to silence critics. Multiple reports suggest officers were sent to the homes of dissenters in an attempt to intimidate and suppress opposition. This use of law enforcement to maintain political control has created a climate of fear, one where speaking out could mean facing serious consequences. These actions have shattered public confidence and painted a picture of a leader obsessed with power rather than service. As the FBI investigation gains momentum, the spotlight has also turned to Henyard's former right-hand man, Keith Freeman. Already charged with bankruptcy fraud, Freeman is now rumored to be cooperating with authorities, a move that could implicate Henyard in even deeper financial misconduct. With each new revelation, it becomes harder to deny that Henyard's administration has plunged Dalton into a full-blown crisis, both financially and politically. The town is teetering on the edge, struggling to recover from the damage inflicted under her leadership. The people of Dalton are no longer just angry, they're demanding sweeping change. They want accountability, they want justice, and they want a new kind of leadership, one that puts the community first. But a critical question remains. Who will rise to lead Dalton out of this wreckage? Henyard's leadership has left the town reeling, battered by financial mismanagement and a web of scandal. What was once a story of hope and transformation has now become a lesson in how unchecked power and personal ambition can poison public service. Now, with an active FBI investigation, a growing list of legal battles, and state funds frozen, this may be the moment of reckoning Dalton so desperately needs. Rebuilding will not be easy. It will require bold leadership, accountability, and a commitment to ethical governance, qualities Henyard has failed to embody. To recover, Dalton must clean house. Those involved in unethical practices and financial mismanagement must face consequences. New leadership must emerge. Leaders who value transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the public good above personal gain. Henyard's time in office will not be remembered for the promises she made, but for the trust she broke. Her legacy is now etched in scandal, corruption, and economic collapse, a stark warning of what happens when leaders treat public office as a tool for personal control. The community deserves better. They deserve a mayor who serves, not rules. Someone who can repair what's been broken and restore the people's faith in local government. For now, all Dalton's residents can do is wait. Wait as the FBI continues its probe. Wait for justice. Wait for the opportunity to turn the page on this dark chapter. But with Henyard still deflecting blame and refusing to take responsibility, the road to healing won't be easy.